how many people have we met, myself included, that was like, my family, they're my biggest critics. They don't love me like my friends do. They don't see the light in me like my friends do. Let's not be those kinds of parents.
Yeah. Welcome to the Be Well Baby podcast. I'm Dr. Emily Spaeth, founder of Be Well Baby in Portland, Oregon, and the Beyond Birth Blueprint, an online community where we support families through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and especially life with a baby. This podcast exists because I believe families deserve better than what I am seeing in my work as a physical therapist, lactation consultant, and childbirth educator. Just a quick loving note before we dive in. Everything you hear on this podcast is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice. Every body and every baby and every season is different, and you deserve support that is personalized to you. Let's get started. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome back, everyone, to the Be Well Baby podcast. I am joined today by Belinda Tung, and she was on the podcast earlier interviewing me just a few weeks ago, but she's the founder of Perfect Child. And we have a conversation that really reframed the way that I think about parenting from a place of steadiness rather than fear. We talk about the lighthouse metaphor, which I'm going to let her explain. I find myself chasing, fixing, and trying to control a lot as a parent, and it's really helpful to hear from an expert how we can get into that quieter, subtler, more grounded sense of parenting. And if you're in the newborn haze right now, don't tune out just because this feels like it's about toddlers or older kids. The way that you respond to your baby's cries, the trust that you build in your own instincts as a parent, and the patterns that you fall into under exhaustion, all of that lays the groundwork for how you'll show up down the road. It happens so fast. A parent chasing a defiant 4-year-old around the living room was not long ago rocking a newborn at 3 a.m. So learning to be steady and present right now with crying, with needs that you're not sure exactly how to meet, that is practice for the years ahead. This conversation is so good. And if you are a parent of a child in and around the Portland area, Belinda has an event coming up on August 8th called the Wholesome Family Festival. I am so excited about this event, and I really, really hope to see a lot of people there. And I wish there were more events like this in town. Belinda, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited for this.
Of course. I'm delighted to be able to both be on each other's podcasts. So I'm going to start with the foundation of your work. What does it mean to you to perceive the child as perfect? That's language that you use all the time. Because I think even that phrase alone of like your child is perfect might stop some parents in their tracks.
And that's funny that you should say that, because when I first came up with the name Perfect Child for my website, I would get two reactions. One, people would be like, ew, why would we want that? Like, why? And then even as someone told me that their child saw the name, was like, no, like, I'm not trying to be a perfect child. And then you get into the space where people understand children really well. They're steeped in child development. And those people, when I tell them my website name, they're like, oh, it lands. And they're like, yes, Perfect Child. And so then that's where I stood, because these are the people that I'm talking to. Is we're not, it's not the pursuit of perfection. That is a societal, I think, conditioning, programming, whatever. It's knowing that the child is perfect. And it's so important. In fact, I actually was at a farmer's market and I had handed a sticker out that said Perfect Child. And the mother was like, oh yeah, right. And I was like, no, your child is perfect. You know, and it's just, this is the thing. People react that way. And it's just, we have to keep reminding people that the children are perfect. We're all perfect.
I'm already emotional because as a parent, you're like, of course my children are not perfect. And of course, like my goal is not for them to be perfect or pursue perfection necessarily, but being able to step back and say, no, even in all their imperfection, your child is perfect. Ugh.
Yes.
Okay. Well, end of episode.
Okay. See you later.
Okay. I want to talk today about the lighthouse metaphor because I think a lot of parents don't really know what this means. It's such a powerful metaphor for parenting. And, you know, you're steady, present, but you're not going to rush in to fix everything. So, Belinda, when you first encountered that idea, what shifted for you personally as a parent?
So, I mean, Lighthouse, it's because I'm in this space of always embracing, you know, partnership parenting and how do we show up in a way where we are not feeling like we are responsible for how this child turns out. Because if we begin with the truth that every child is perfect, we don't need to do anything. We just need to witness. Mm-hmm. And so that is the space. And honestly, I didn't come to this actual being the lighthouse, embody the lighthouse in myself until probably like just a couple years ago. Because I had a very conventional birth. I was just like just one of those people that these are the things, we get married, we have a child, blah, blah, blah. And then as I dove more into how we are all born perfect and whole, then I recognized, oh, this is it.
Yeah. We'll talk more about the lighthouse, but I think that so many parents come into working with both you and me in very different ways, but in a reactive place. So they're in survival mode. They can't sleep. I just saw a baby this morning who is not sleeping. They're exhausted. What does it look like when a parent is operating from a place of fear and exhaustion rather than from that steady lighthouse place?
Yeah, I think that happens a lot. Basically, when you're operating from a place of fear, you are in that mode of, I must do. I must teach this child. I must do the things so that my child doesn't X, Y, and Z, right? Mm-hmm. And we're forgetting that every human comes into existence with our own purpose and our own gift. Mm-hmm. And when we are working from a place of fear, we don't know what the child's gift is and we forget. And we try to put upon them what we think is best. And we have to remember that everything that we know, that we've learned in our lives is old. It's done. There's magic out there that we don't even know about. This is how things get invented. Yeah. And so if you are operating from a place of fear, it's such an opportunity. And this is why children are so transformative, because when we come from a place of fear, it's an opportunity to dig back into ourselves and meet our own inner child and do the work of meeting our own inner child whose mets didn't get met when we were at whatever age. And so it just always when you're in a place of like exhaustion and fear and just don't know what to do, turn to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh gosh, that's so hard because, I mean, I am dying to ask you all the questions about how to parent my children right now. but the feeling of just like fatigue that is so deep in your bones, not just with a newborn, but as this newborn becomes a small human with their own opinions and their own very complex needs. I would argue that babies are so much easier to parent than children because their needs are very simple.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that their needs are so simple, because at the end of the day, the needs never change. From 0 to 100, the needs never change. It's always safety,
oh my gosh,
connection, nourishment.
Totally. And sleep.
And sleep.
Oh, wow. That just sort of like simplified all of parenting for me. So you use the word perceive the child as perfect. And I know that's an intentional choice. It's not believe or know that your child is perfect. I'm curious if we can kind of dive into how we hold perception and allow ourselves to sort of stand in that role as the lighthouse on the hard days and be able to perceive.
Yeah, that question is very interesting to me too, because I was thinking about that and saying, okay, yeah, why do I say perceive? And the reason why I say perceive is, first of all, I don't say believe because belief is something sort of outside of ourselves. Sometimes people believe things because it's been told to them, right? Mm-hmm. And perception is something that you yourself have agency over. I have the choice to perceive at all times. Mm-hmm. And then knowing, when I think about knowing is a truth actually. So I could use the word knowing, which is actually more bold, like knowing your child is perfect. However, the reason why I don't use knowing is because I think parents aren't there yet. Mm-hmm. If you're not there yet and you're saying, I know my child is perfect, and you come in as like, my child is perfect. No, my child is perfect. He just hit your child and it doesn't matter. My child is perfect. That's different.
So I think it feels sometimes inauthentic as a parent.
Right.
You know, I think there's a lot to be said for the way that we repeated thoughts become belief, right? So if we can feel that over time, perhaps it will become a belief. But I think perception sort of takes it away from knowing, in that way of just like, you can be an observer and witness.
Yeah. Yeah. And we always have choice over our perceptions. It's our perceptions that actually guide everything that we do, even in adult relationships.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. I think parenting makes you a better human to be in relationship with.
1000% when we're doing the work.
Yeah. That's for sure. So a lighthouse is never going to chase a ship. And when I think about this, I think about myself chasing my own children around when they're not listening to me, and I'm trying to physically get them to move into a location I need them to be in. But a lighthouse just keeps shining. So how do we, as parents, practice that kind of non-intervention when every instinct is telling us to step in, and also potentially like, it's just time to brush our teeth. You know, we just have to move this along because we are all need to go to bed, you know? So what do we do, Belinda?
I think the metaphor of the lighthouse is more that you want to be the person that your child always goes to for their own strength. They feel fueled by you because they know they're seen by you. And so it's everything else, the whole like having them, shepherding them to a certain location or having them brush their teeth, that's physical things that happen that need to happen. And so we always operate from a place of truth. You know, like you need to brush your teeth at this time. So you brush your teeth at this time, and just not to add emotional charge into things. But the lighthouse is always having that intention of it's that bar that we reach for to always ask ourselves, am I connecting with my child? When I act this way, am I connecting with my child? Like, always have that as your goal, is the connection. So everything else that you're talking about is very like material in nature. It's the things that have to happen, and you'll make it happen however you see fit, right? It's not like the child just gets free reign. It's more, I'm the lighthouse because I want to make sure that at the end of the day, my child always knows that I am your biggest fan. I love you unconditionally, and you can always come to me. I will never judge you. Because that's what we need.
Yes, it is. It's what we need from each other. It's what we need from the world, you know. I've been thinking a lot about this in terms of your chosen family, my neighborhood is just getting so close. There are children everywhere. It's easy to just let your door open and have kids running around. It's totally idyllic right now. It could never have thought up the way that my children are growing up. And it's really beautiful. And I've been thinking, you know, your neighbors are sort of like cousins. You don't get to choose them. And you learn to love them unconditionally, really, with all of their flaws. And it's such a good lesson in just loving humans unconditionally.
Oh, that's the goal. That's the goal, right? Being in the one space where you love everyone because everyone matters.
Yeah.
And like why it's so important to embody the lighthouse metaphor is because how many people have we met, myself included, that was like, my family, they're my biggest critics. They don't love me like my friends do. They don't see the light in me like my friends do. Let's not be those kinds of parents.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing that came up for me when you were saying that about the teeth brushing in the lighthouse, that I can still be the lighthouse even as I'm ushering a child to brush their teeth. I can still see them completely. I can see all of their needs, and maybe their need is play. And that is an unmet need right now because it's time to brush our teeth.
Generally. Yeah.
Okay, so when a child's behavior is really challenging, like full meltdowns, defiance, shutting down, even the quieter challenging behaviors like just pouting. Like I have a child who tends to get on the bus and then have the hand at the window. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my hand is at the window and just the like long face looking at you out the window. It is so sad, you know? And it's because she's bored and doesn't feel like she has a friend on the bus. You know, and then I also have a child who likes to hide when it's time for a transition. So these are some of the behaviors that sort of over time are, you know, quieter, but they grate on you as a parent. So what does it take to pause in those moments and ask, what's the unmet need here? And instead of just reacting. And I think part of the magic of your answer to this question is like, what are some of those unmet needs that are subtler, that parents are not really picking up on? Myself included.
I'm a really big proponent of journaling because I think energetically we're so connected, especially mothers. You know, we talk about this, like the mother-baby dyad, and the mothers and their kids are always really, really connected. And so if you were to journal about that, what are you feeling? What does it bring up in you? Because oftentimes what they're mirroring for you is an unmet need that wasn't met for you. And so to dial it in, because I've been journaling for, gosh, more than 15 years now. And when I first started, it was just kind of very rote. Like, this is what I did today, or this is what I feel today, or this is why I was so mad. And now it's gotten to a place after journaling for so long that I find journaling to literally be my own conversation with God or a conversation with my higher self. You know, I'm to a place now where like I could write something and the answer will come to me in the next sentence. Or even as I'm writing something that I'm feeling, I'm crossing it out because I'm like, that doesn't apply anymore. That was literally irrelevant. Half the things that we experience as like annoyances are totally irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, I can't tell you what's the best way to address your child, but just the fact of you writing it down, it's a writing down. It's not a thinking about, because when we think about it, it's our head that's getting in the way, and we think of ways that we can alter this behavior. And this isn't a behavior. It's an unmet need. And so when you journal, and even the act of journaling and taking the time to go back and then dial back and look at everything, because everything is connected. So it's not just every time she gets on the bus, she does this. What were her actions beforehand? What was the family's action beforehand? Let's look at the big picture and just write it all out. And sometimes when you write it all out, this is where like telepathy comes in, like the universal messages. Like she gets the message and things change. We don't even have to use words.
Well, and I think part of that comes from, I mean, I just love the idea of self-reflection as a parenting tool. I think there's a lot of like behavior modification tools that people have, but self-reflection is probably the most powerful parenting tool that there is. And it's so important at every single stage of your child's life.
Yes. And so important in every stage of our lives. Literally self-reflection for everything.
Yes.
And it's empowering.
And I love what you said about writing it down, because
Right.
I know that a lot of people don't love journaling. I can, I'll raise my hand here and be like, oh, I like journaling after I've journaled. I just wanted to pop in here and say that if the Be Well Baby podcast has helped you in any way, if our team has helped you in any way, the people who find us because they heard about us from a friend, because they heard about us from a midwife or a doula or their pediatrician or their OB. And we value those connections so much. And we know that the only way for people to find excellent healthcare is for people to talk about it. So if you have a minute, please leave the podcast a review. It will help people find this podcast. If we band together and shout this from the rooftops, then we will be able to change healthcare. Thanks. You talked a little bit about how a lot of what is happening in child behavior is triggering parents because of unmet needs that they had. When a parent feels triggered, what would you say is like the internal process that should happen for them in that moment? I think it's easy to self-reflect, take a step back, do this at night before you go to bed. But like, what do you do in that moment?
So I think that when you have a trigger, there's really nothing you can do at that moment. You're going to react because it's a trigger, right? But also grace for yourself. And,
oh, that's such a relief. It's such a relief. You're just like, there is nothing to do. It's a trigger. That's why it's called a trigger.
Right. Right. And literally the trigger is fine. And also like our goal as parents is not to be perfect parents. It's more important because we never teach our children anything. We never teach any other human anything through words and talking at them. People learn through modeling. And so if we model that we're having a really hard day, we are breaking down, we're yelling, we're just so pissed off. And then when we recover gracefully, or we don't recover gracefully, at least we recover, right? And so in the repair, there's so much modeling in the repair and in just the intention of doing things better. Gosh, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that I did that. I was not myself.
Wow. Yeah. It's all about the repair.
It is. And then when you have a moment to yourself, when you're journaling at night, you go back and you write out the trigger and all the things that went along with the trigger. I was triggered because, and then think like bigger. Maybe it was because you were like embarrassed that you were with new people. You're at the grocery store and the child did that and you were embarrassed, because normally if they were doing that at home, you'd give them 5 more minutes. Go ahead. That's fine. Why can't it be fine in the grocery store?
Interesting. And just asking yourself that question might change the way that you react the next time.
Yeah. And it happens their entire lives. As teenagers, there's a lot that happens with teenagers. And I often find myself being like, well, right, why is that important to me? Like, why do I think that she needs to speak to me in a certain way? Like, I'm her parent. I know, like, that's a programming for me that just because I'm older than you, you need to talk to me with respect. Why? If she speaks to me that way, does it mean she respects me less? No, it doesn't. I know that when she goes out, she's super polite and super conscientious of how she treats people. And this is it. Like the home is where they can just let go and know that they don't have to still perform for us. And that's a hard one.
And they can be held and seen and loved despite their snarky attitudes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Belinda, where does curiosity come in for you? Because I think that that's a muscle that we are not really taught to use, especially when you think back to how we were parented.
Right.
You know, it was a lot of, you know, do it because I'm the mom and I said so. You know, and my mom would say that to me almost like jokingly because I said so. She was almost a joke, but I knew that she meant it. You know, it was like we were both kind of laughing about this thing, but like that was still the answer.
Yeah. And I love that she made it playful because play is everything.
A little.
You just take the little bits of play that you get. Curiosity is definitely a muscle. And it just, it goes hand in hand with self-reflection. Because when you self-reflect, you have to be curious about everything that led up to that and why. And it's just being curious. We don't have to have the answers. We're not in control, just being curious.
How would you ask those questions? Like, how would you flex the muscle of curiosity?
Always self-reflecting. So in every given moment with any relationship that I have, not just with my child, my husband, my friends, if things happen in a certain way, I will self-reflect and be like, okay, well, how could I have done this differently? If I had done this, maybe the reaction from that person would have been different. Oh, something I said triggered that person. What could I have done differently? And it always comes back to me. What could I have done differently? What could have been different? You know, because like, especially when we work with children, it's like, we're not looking at their behavior. We're looking at the environment and being curious about how the environment could have been different for that child to nurture their needs.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, as a physical therapist, when I am working with a baby, the first thing that I am looking at is the environment. Is this a baby that is held all day long, sitting in their parent's lap? That is not an environment that's going to allow your baby to roll. Of course they can't roll, you know? Right? So that's always the first thing I'm looking at. And it's so interesting how we get tunnel vision, you know, that like, I am so good at my job and I am not good at applying those skills to my own children.
That's always the case. Like every great teacher that, like, we had a kindergarten teacher and I'm like, man, you have so much patience. Like, how do you cultivate that? And she's like, oh, you should talk to my children. I don't have patience at home.
I have patience for everyone else's children.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what gets in the way of parents trusting themselves to be that lighthouse? I mean, I can guess that part of it is how we were brought up. Part of it is our conditioning, you know, but what are some of the like cultural and generational messages that really pull us off of that?
Oh, Emily, this answer is going to be really triggering for a lot of people because for me, it's almost like which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Was it the education system that literally takes us away from paying attention to honoring our bodies that are always talking to us? We can't pee when we want. We can't eat when we want. We can't move when we want. We have to listen for a bell.
We can't drink when we want. I just learned that my daughter doesn't drink water at school.
Not okay. Okay. So that, but does it start in the birthing process in the hospitals? Because medical births are very disempowering. The doctor knows everything.
It's so hard. And it's also hard to, like, it's not even that doctor's fault.
No.
Like, this is the system that we're in.
It's the system that we're in.
And I think one thing for me is when doctors are so dismissive of concerns, because I see this all the time in practice where families come to us saying, I have been to 5 different providers and all of them say that there's nothing wrong with my baby, and I know there's something wrong. And after asking just a few questions, I also know there's something wrong. So why am I the only person looking around and saying there's something wrong? Let's sound the alarms and figure out what it is. Because I think that our system, they only have 5 minutes with you. You know, our system is not set up to actually care for people.
Right. It's true. And it's the systems, because these doctors, no fault to them, because they're educated in a system that literally feeds them whatever information, right? So it's really important to be discerning, but it's hard to be discerning when you're coming from a place of fear. You've been educated in a way where you literally, everyone tells you whatever you think is wrong, it has to be this way. Right. So it's the systems. And so it's really important to step away from the systems.
I think there's also, you know, you kind of have to live within the system sometimes, and figuring out how to balance the like public education system, that maybe that's your option, you know, for so many of us, that's the option. And so balancing that school day with how you are at home, and then also how are you supposed to meet all of those needs that you want to meet with your children when you're working full time. You know, there's just like, it's sort of an impossible structure, but I think just having these conversations and questioning the system that we're in, I think you really hit the nail on the head there with birth. I know that, you know, some people really are not going to make that connection. You know, some people who are going to say, no, like the birth experience is the birth experience. My child is my child. It's different. But I do believe that there is a through line of fear there in so much of how the healthcare system cares for us. And that is why I have Beyond Birth, because I need for people, you know, and I approached birth education backwards. So I was treating the babies in the NICU, I was treating the parents, and I was like, there's something wrong with how you're being prepared for this, because you're not.
Not at all. 0%. The first thing that you can do is recognize that all the systems feed fear. All of them. And so exercising that curiosity muscle.
Wow. That conversation just got way bigger than I thought it would.
Oh, and might I say, and this is why like Perfect Child exists, and my podcast is because I share the stories of those that have walked away from the systems, that have built different things, that have done things differently, even if they have to have their kid in public schools. You know, like there are ways to still be curious and be empowered within the systems. And if you choose not to step away, not to be in the system, there's a path that's already been created.
Yeah, that's such a good segue, Belinda. I was going to ask, can you tell us how you contribute to this and how you work with families?
I contribute by sharing the stories because, again, I feel like humans learn best through stories, and we've lost the stories. We don't have a village anymore. And so these are the stories of the wisdom keepers who have been courageous enough to do things differently. And so my intention with Perfect Child is to create a container where if you have something that you feel needs addressing, listen to the stories. And a lot of times when you listen to the stories, it ignites in you something that you remember, a little spark of bravery in you to do something differently. And then if you need more support, I can help. I can help you to tune back into yourself and be curious and recognize where the systems have been programmed into us.
Yeah. Belinda, so you work with people one-on-one?
Yes, I work with people one-on-one. My goal is to be accessible to mothers. Like I have people who call me, they'll text me and be like, do you have 5 minutes? Because this journey of deprogramming is so hard because the system is a behemoth, right?
It is.
And so,
you know, and I think so many people are doing amazing work trying to change the system from the inside out, but it takes decades. You know, and some of us are trying to change it from the outside in.
Exactly. And I think the outside in is great because it's just so much more joyful. In my own parenting journey, I find that like, okay, I'll have a coaching call with a coach. And then maybe a month later, like, I need some help, but now like I have to book an appointment. And then, you know what I mean? Like I want to be available for people when they need it. And so they can text me or email me and just be like, I am experiencing this, and I can just sit there and be witness and help them to work through like, okay, take a moment. That's okay. These things that you're feeling is okay. And how about this? Like, what do you think about that? You know, it's just like in the moment, sometimes people need support.
Yeah. When I was going through kind of a challenging parenting moment, I found this approach. There's so many, there's so many approaches, but one of the hallmarks of the approach was to have a listening partner, which it sounds like is kind of what you do for your clients. You are a person who they can tell in that moment when their child is melting down. They can say, Belinda, my child is melting down and I'm about to lose my shit.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so powerful to have that non-judgmental reflection witness. Yeah. So you are the lighthouse for all the lighthouses.
Right. I'm trying to be the lighthouse for all the lighthouses. Yes. And also at that moment when your child is melting down, don't call me because that child needs attention.
Sure.
Just give them a hug.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Okay. If a parent is listening right now and they're realizing that they've been really operating from a place of fear, and this is sort of the first time that they've even heard the concept of being a lighthouse, what is the very, very first small incremental step towards becoming a beacon of light and hope and love for their child that you would give them?
Well, I would say, congratulations, you already took that very small step, because awareness is the first step. So if you're aware that you have some moments where you're operating from a place of fear, you're already setting that intention to be the lighthouse and to deprogram, which sets off energetically this intention to be curious. And so you will automatically be a little bit more curious, because now that we've had this conversation, everything that we talked about in our conversation today, Emily, will help parents to really kind of be like, oh yeah, like start exercising your discernment muscle and seeing the places where the systems feed fear.
Amazing. Belinda, thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like I learned a lot about my own parenting journey. I feel like I am just, over the moon grateful to you for taking the time to talk to me about this. And I know that everyone listening is going to get so much from this conversation. I would love to end with having you talk about the event that is happening on August 8th, because I am so excited and I wish that there was one of these every month. Tell us more.
Don't tempt me. I'm definitely already going to have one every year. Okay. But this is the inaugural Wholesome Family Festival. And thank you so much for asking me to share about it, because essentially I feel like every event that we go to, there's always so much overstimulation and like all the processed foods and so much candy. Every time we go anywhere, dentist office, like anywhere you go, they're like, oh, hi, your child is so sweet. Can they have a piece of candy? Why? No, thank you. So the idea was, okay, like my husband was like, why don't you host like a festival or something, a Perfect Child Festival? I'm like, I'm going to call it Wholesome Family Festival, because let's remember when we used to just gather in picnics on a big lawn and just connect and have fun games. So we're going to do 3-legged races, like sack races, egg balancing games with prizes, like fun prizes. And my husband will secure probably some like bluegrass music, not super loud, but just kind of some music. And I'm going to have practitioners that support moms to regulate their nervous systems, emotion code, body code, all the things. Hopefully you'll be there working with babies, helping moms learn how to, work with their babies. And my intention, because I see there's so many postpartum mom groups, is to pull them all together so that we can all always connect and be friends and be our village.
Yeah. And it's so hard sometimes to find the village. And it's really true that going to those events is something, going to the mom group is one thing, but deciding together as a cohort to attend an event together that is not going to be too overstimulating. Anything outdoors when there's like a bunch of people around is overstimulating enough. You don't need a carousel or a big bounce house or, you don't actually need anything. No. Kids will find their own fun. I was shocked when I had, let's see, what did I have? I had nothing for children to play with. And they were able to create a bridge over the creek next to our house out of 2x4s that they found. And that is now like the hangout spot. That's where all the kids want to play because they made it, they built it themselves. And I think it's really, kids don't get to be bored anymore.
Right. So this is the place and they're held. We know they're safe. There's all these trees.
You won't have a bunch of candy?
There will not be any candy. I like to say that this event is going to be so just nourishing for your child that you'll bring a child home that is happily tired and going to bed instead of totally wired. And you having to do something to try and calm them down so that they can go to sleep.
Okay, so it's on August 8th. Where and what
August
time?
8th at North Clackamas Park. And it'll be from 12 to 5. And it's open. It's open to everyone.
You can spend the whole day.
Yes.
Awesome. Is there a place that you want people to sign up for this or should they just
show up?
Amazing.
Yeah. Show up and bring your friends.
I'll see you guys there. Oh, this is awesome, Belinda. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to connect with you soon. I know we'll see each other on the trail.
Oh, for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story.
Yeah, absolutely. Belinda, thank you again so much for this conversation. I have to say, if you remember what I said about my daughter on the school bus, the next day, indeed, there was no longer an issue. It was really, really short-lived. So probably just talking to Belinda about it and processing it myself in that moment of self-reflection was really helpful for getting her exactly what she needed. Remember, if you're in the Portland area, don't forget Belinda's community event that is happening this August 8th. I will drop all the details in the show notes so you can join. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me. And I'll see you next week on the Be Well Baby podcast. Audio and music production by the amazing Peter Gary, with Lillian Ewert managing all scheduling and operations of Be Well Baby, including this podcast. Thank you both for making this happen. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and I'd love for you to follow us on Instagram at BeWellBabyPDX or visit BeWellBaby.org to book a time to chat with us. And if this episode helped you, please send it to someone who's pregnant, postpartum, or someone in your life who wants to support you better. No one should have to do this alone. Welcome to Be Well Baby. You're in the right place.